I'm staying in a small town on business. I don't want to give out too much detail about myself, but I'm a salesman and am working on a deal with the local farmers for my company. I've been here for less than a week and have been making some decent progress, but it's been a little complicated and had a few snags here and there. I'm renting a little townhouse and paying weekly since there are no hotels nearby. The place is on the edge of town, though there is a little gas station and general store across the road. I would rather minimalize the details I give because I don't want this being traced back to me. I would rather be anonymous, assuming I can get out of here. I never thought I would say this, but the deal seems irrelevant now. I have always been a materialist and never believed in anything paranormal before, but I am questioning a lot after last night. I saw something come into town, a person I think. They walked like a person, but I don't think I can call them a human being after what I saw them do and what they looked like, not to mention the company they keep. I'm not even sure if this whole thing is not just some kind of waking nightmare. I have a job to do, and I would like to keep it, but something is extremely wrong. I know people are missing, and I think I might know why. If I'm being honest with myself, there probably should be no doubt, other than the fact that it contradicts my views on reality. I was taking out the garbage last night, and was enjoying the quietude of the silence, in contrast to the loud and active city I'm used to. I was indulging in a cigarette as I looked down the road that leads out of town. At night, it's all but pitch dark the further out you look. Only the meager lights of the town, my house, and the gas station providing light on the barren road. No endless street lamps, just wilderness on one side and flat land on the other. It's generally pretty peaceful, and I like the sound of the cicadas. I was puffing on my cigarette when I noticed something odd. I could not figure it out for a while, but eventually, about halfway through, I realized that things were even more quiet than normal. No wind, no cicadas, nothing. It was off-putting. I found myself sort of looking around. It was a surreal feeling, almost ominous. The only thing that was not silent was the faint hum of the lights across the street, the low buzz having a monopoly on sound at the moment. I tried to soak in the situation, standing there alone in the night, looking down the endless road that led into a dark horizon. That was when I saw a figure making their way down the road in the distance. It was hard to see much in the way of details in the night, and with the distance between us, but I found myself transfixed for a moment. I thought to myself, who could be walking down the road this late at night with no towns for miles? The first answer that came to mind was some kind of vagrant. Something did not seem right about this theory, but at least it halfway fit. Something still felt off about what I was seeing though. I have always been skeptical, and I have never given credence to superstition and the paranormal. Yet despite this, my intuition was whispering to me that I was wrong. Something did not add up about the stranger I saw down the road. That's when I noticed, in the few moments I had spent thinking, the figure had crossed a considerable amount of distance before I had realized it. The pace they were moving at was leisurely and slow, but I noticed that every step they took seemed to cross more distance than it rightfully should have. I watched as if transfixed, as the figure, which had been so recently pretty far off, rapidly shaved the distance between it and me. I could make out more of them now. They had a long dark coat. They were also dragging something behind them, a large massive sack. It looked like it was made of leather. The sound of it was grating. It cut through the silence, and even through the faint buzzing of the lights across the street. It was a sound that filled my stomach with ice. It never ceased. It just kept going on and on as the figure got closer to the driveway of the townhouse. I looked at them, and I could make out long white hair and an equally pale face. The face itself was long, with a big long chin and a nose as well. The features were exaggerated to an absurd degree, almost like a caricature. I thought I saw a smile, dark lips parting to reveal long horse teeth. The hand not dragging the large sack rose up as if to wave. The hand was as pale as the rest of them, but I could see that his nails were exceptionally long, not unlike talons. What stood out most were the eyes, which were bright red and glittered with malice. I knew then, I was not looking at any normal person. I wasn't sure if I was looking at a person at all. I put out the cigarette, stomped it out, and went inside the house as quick as I possibly could. When I did so, I couldn't help but feel that stranger was right upon my heels. I latched the door, which even came with a thick piece of wood to bar upon the interior. I remember hearing my heartbeat and breathing hard, closing the blinds. I had not yet turned on the lights and dared not to, so the house was exceptionally dark. My breathing was starting to calm down when I heard a knock at my door. Tap, tap, tap. I was unsure if I had even heard the faint sound, but I quickly felt ice flood my veins again. The sound of talons against the door. It came again a bit harder after that. Bang, bang, bang. I was at a loss what to do. Call the sheriff? I saw the doorknob begin to shake, as whoever was there was trying to get in. The pounding became more insistent, more aggressive. Bang, bang, bang. It occurred to me, if they really wanted to, the stranger could feasibly break a window and waltz right in. Were they trying to scare me? Did they not realize how easy it would be? The thought of this person, busting my window with their sack, coming in to meet me, finally spurred me into action. I went to my room to the sound of endless knocking, and went to the landline since my phone has abysmal signal here. I dialed the sheriff's number frantically, hoping someone would pick up. Every moment I waited, I expected to hear shattering glass. Finally, the sheriff picked up. There's someone outside my house, knocking on my door, and they haven't stopped. I think they are some kind of transient. He was a bit skeptical, but he could hear the noise on his end as well. So he said he would be right there and told me to sit tight. Bang, bang, bang. What the hell is wrong with you? Get out of here. I screamed with everything I had at the door. The frequency of the knocking only increased exponentially, as if to answer my challenge. I began to yell. This went on for I don't know how long. It felt like minutes. It felt like an eternity. That was when the knocking suddenly stopped. I remember feeling lightheaded and having a nosebleed. I saw the lights through my blinds and heard the sound of a car pulling up. Oh, thank God, I thought. I ran upstairs to get a look at what the hell was going on and what was going to happen. I was only partially relieved. Something told me that the ordeal was far from over. The window of my bedroom saw me looking down at the road. There was the sheriff, outside his car, with his shotgun out yelling towards my door. But I couldn't see the threshold. I saw something dark lash out like a viper, and the sheriff dropped his gun as it was struck. I still remember the look on his face. I don't think I'll ever forget it. I had only spoken to him a few times, but he had seemed the no-nonsense hard-bitten type. The type of guy that was raised in the country, then served in the military, and carried that discipline and attitude with him the rest of his life. A man of stern practicality. The type of man that looked like he didn't scare easily. He was as white as a ghost, and his mouth was gaping open, slack-jawed, blue eyes bugging out as he backed up towards his car slowly, arms raised up in front of him as if in an apology. I also noticed there was a wet stain on his crotch. Oh shit, I remember whispering. If the fearless sheriff left now, that would leave me alone with whoever was outside again. I ran a hand through my hair again and again, as I saw my only salvation get into his car and peel out. Shit, I cried out, not wanting to believe what I had just seen, not wanting to believe this surreal nightmare that had become my life. I had been abandoned. I pinched myself hard, and it hurt. This was not a dream. I waited for a few moments, wondering what was going to happen next. Bang, bang, bang. The banging continued again downstairs. What had remained of the sun had long since gone now. Night had fallen in earnest, and now I was alone with a stranger that had sent an officer in the law who had served in the military, running in sheer terror. It began to dawn on me that I could scarcely deny whatever was outside my door was not a normal person, not something that my rationality had an answer to. Bang, bang, bang. I stayed upstairs, afraid to go down. The knocks were so loud I could practically feel the house shake. I imagined that this is what it must have been like to be under siege. What else was there to do? My only hope had turned tail, and it was just me and the thing that was either trying to get in my house or toying with me to instill fear. I could not help but feel a vague sense of sadistic enjoyment coming from those knocks. It felt like a game, but one I did not think I was going to end up winning. Time seemed to lose meaning. This might have gone on for several minutes or several hours. I think it was the latter, because I definitely lost time. Eventually, the rapping stopped, and I waited in dread, wondering if it was just a false sense of security, or if they had become bored with the game and were ready to actually do something. I dared to look outside the second-story window again. They were getting off my porch, dragging that big leather sack with them. My porch light was on, and I could only see the back of them and their shock-white long fine hair. I saw a lump form on the bag, then another, and I realized with even greater horror, something was inside of it. There was a rope fastened around the lip of the bag, and the stranger undid it, and something small and pink came out. It was like a hairless chimpanzee, but with a baby-shaped head, and long fingers with even longer talons. I remember the stranger caressing it, lovingly stroking behind its pointed ears. He then closed the bag and began dragging it as he turned towards town. I saw them give a little finger wave to me as they moseyed off. A few seconds later, I heard something on my roof. Scratching, tapping, scratching, tapping. I was reaching my limit. I then saw the creature's face peek upside down from my window, its pink palms against the glass as it gave a fangled smile. Saucer red eyes with brows raised in delight and hunger. As it began pounding on the glass while shrieking with inhuman emotion, I ran out of the room, and a few moments later, the sound I had been dreading for an eternity happened. I heard the sound of breaking glass. I sprinted through the darkened house. I ran down the steps and tripped. I saw it bounding down the hallway, scampering towards the stairs. I pulled myself up and ran to the kitchen to find a knife. I heard it crawling on the wall. I felt its closeness as I pulled out the butcher knife from the wooden holder on the counter. I have never been much of a fighter, but I was so pumped full of adrenaline at this point. I was just in fight or flight. I cut wildly at the thing, which ducked and dodged and hopped around. I think I scored a hit, because I heard it squeal in pain and rage. It was so damn fast, though. It was hopping all over the surfaces of the kitchen, crawling on the walls, moving around furniture and using it for cover. It was when it was pulling that little game that it got me from behind. It was so damn strong, probably to do with its long arms, and it tripped me easily and got on my arm. I dropped the knife and slid it to my other hand and rolled over as I shot my arm out. I stuck it right in the chest, and it went through like butter, sinking all the way through. It stumbled backward, gasping at the knife, a look on its face that was all too human. It looked surprised. It was trying to pull it out when it fell backward and began to spasm on the floor, frothing at the mouth. I got up quickly and caught my breath, looking at it twitch wildly. I stumbled to get another knife and get ready, but when I turned around, it looked different. It was beginning to melt, the pinkish skin starting to peel and dry. As the bones and muscle turned red and became fluid, that started to seep all over the kitchen floor. It was not exceptionally fast. It actually took minutes, but after a while, all that was left was red gunk and dried crusty flakes. It looked like bloody vomit. I killed it. What remains of that creature is probably still there, a smear on the kitchen floor. I didn't go to bed last night, so time feels weird. I called the sheriff earlier this morning, but there was no answer. I haven't really slept, but I don't think sleep deprivation has hit me yet. I feel too on edge. I'm too high-strung, too paranoid to go to sleep. Not before I put distance between me and this place. My car's gas line was cut and the tire slashed. I can't use it to leave. I've been to town today, but most of the few shops are closed. Nobody knows where the mechanic is either. I went to the sheriff's office and he was not in either, and his car was gone. I've considered going to the mayor, but I can't get a hold of him, and he lives about 15 miles outside of town. I dare not try to tell anyone what happened last night. Would they even believe me as a city guy? Would they believe their town was invaded last night by some stranger who can conjure homicidal monkeys out of a bag? I have another nosebleed right now. I need to wrap this up. I'm typing this at the town library, and I'm not sure if I will be able to get another one of these out. My current plan is to try and pay one of the locals to drive me to the next town over, before whatever has come to this place gets worse. One last thing. When I left the townhouse, there was something carved into my door. It reads like, IRO. Does that mean anything to anyone?